Samuel Ikubo on Thursday over alleged blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad. Now, there's so much that surrounds this story, so much chaos, violence, and mayhem. See, just in order to keep the conversation streamlined, I'm going to take this over to you to get your thoughts because I know we were discussing this before we went on air, and yeah, you have some thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Shopper. So we're all witnesses to what happened on Thursday, where we saw a gory video of some unidentified men boasting, boasting and gleefully saying they had taken the life of the lady Deborah Yakubu for allegedly blaspheming the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And they were gleefully showing the instruments they used to carry out. Now, shortly after that, a number of prominent Nigerians condemned the act. Then on Saturday, I think sometime between Friday and Saturday, the police in Sokoto State arrested two of the perpetrators and are on the hunt for the others. On Saturday in Sokoto, very disturbing scenes of violence broke out. Protesters came out, and you would think they were going to protest the unlawful killing of Deborah Yakubu, but rather they were protesting the arrest of two of the perpetrators. And they almost embarked on an orgy of violence.
Violently protesting at that attacked several properties were damaged, including church buildings, attacked and destroyed, and then there were attempts to attack the palace of the sultan.
Yes, they did attempt to attack his palace because he issued a statement condemning the act, and they felt that he shouldn't have issued a statement. Now, it's important to understand this is not the first time blasphemy or the offense of blasphemy is being alleged in Nigeria. In 2000, in June 1999, Alhaji Abdullahi Umaru of Randali village in Kebbi was accused of blaspheming against Holy Prophet Muhammad. And he was killed by some Muslim men. They were tried by Kebbi State High Court. They were found guilty and sentenced to death. They appealed to the Court of Appeal. The appeal was dismissed. Then they appealed to the Supreme Court. In October 2007, the Supreme Court delivered its judgment upholding the sentence of death, the conviction and sentence of death. And it's interesting to note that the current Chief Justice of Nigeria, Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, was on that panel, along with Aloma Mariam Mukhtar, who was the first female Chief Justice of Nigeria. And I'm going to read the comments of Justice Tanko from that judgment.
Okay.
And he says, Islam is not a primitive religion that allows its adherents to take the law into their own hands and to commit jungle justice. The learned jurist goes on to say, instead, there is a judicial system in Islam which hears and determines cases, including the trial of criminal offenses and anybody accused of committing an offense against the religion or against a fellow citizen should be taken to the court, either a Sharia court or a secular common law court for adjudication. It is only when a person is convicted and sentenced by a court of law, Sharia or secular, that he will be liable to a punishment which will be carried out by the appropriate authority. He then went on to say that the accused persons who killed the victim because they believed he blasphemed against the Holy Prophet Muhammad were a bunch of bloodthirsty militants. Now, how do we take this to this case in point? A lady was accused. It's like Justice Tanko Muhammad said, Islam is not a primitive religion. It's not a religion predicated on chaos and a lack of order.
Now, Mr. C, what I'm going to ask, because we have another story regarding this,
Yes.
is this a case of, um, you've already read from Justice Tanko's note saying that it's not a primitive murder, but is it about the people rather? Because rather than the religion, because a lot of focus has been put on the religion, but what about the people? Because we have this story that comes in from the Punch newspaper. Lagos police arrest four as motorcyclist kill sound engineer over 100 naira. This is not the first case of jungle justice. This is not the first case of violence stemming from somebody's um, verbal, somebody's utterings.
Correct.
So what would you say?
So, with each passing day, you'll find that the poorer class of Nigerians are steadily losing their humanity. Matters that should be sent to the authorities for resolution. They take the law into their hands and they're happy to take innocent lives. In Lagos, a young man lost his life, ostensibly over a dispute around 100 naira.
In fact, let's look at the story. It's in from the Punch newspaper. Lagos police arrest four as motorcyclist kill sound engineer of 100 naira. Operatives of Lagos State Police Command have arrested four suspects over the killing of a young man by commercial motorcyclist in the Lekki area of Lagos State. The Punch gathered that the father of two was killed over a 100 naira balance by a motorcyclist. Mr. C, just a while ago, I mean, we're talking about Deborah, who was killed in Sokoto down here in Lagos where we're having the conversation, not so far away from us. 100 naira is why someone was lynched. Can we make sense? Can we ever make sense of this?
Before we hear from Mrs. C, let's just put it out there. We are streaming live, by the way, on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. Make sure you join us on that platform. Make sure you leave your comments on the live stream as well to join this conversation, this very pertinent conversation.
So there's a disturbing trend in Nigeria where people resort to taking the law into their own hands, rather because for whatever reason they seem to have a lack of faith in the ability of the state-sanctioned institutions to adequately resolve the matters. Now, in Sokoto, the young lady allegedly blasphemed the Holy Prophet. There are no details of the alleged blasphemy. I'm not holding brief for her. I wasn't there. I don't know what transpired. But why wasn't she reported to the appropriate authorities? Apparently, they were in a school, so the school has authorities on ground on the premises.
In fact, there are stories that they were trying to take Deborah out of the school, and this young mob wouldn't let it happen.
So the disturbing bit from the Sokoto incident was that allegedly students in the school invited unidentified outsiders to come and get her. Now in Lagos, it's the same thing. A dispute over 100 now, which is neither here nor there. I understand there was a fight. Now the Okada driver slumped in the process of the fight, and his colleagues believed he had died. And it was on the back of that they now attacked this guy and then burnt him alive, only for the person who slumped to allegedly stand up. Now I understand the person who stood up is in police custody, but there needs to be continued and renewed.
Is there punishment for things like this, jungle justice?
No, clearly it's unlawful murder. So you will face the penalties for murder if you're found guilty, which is you will lose your own life.
All right, let's get the show going. Remember, you can send in messages to us on WhatsApp. Quite a number of messages coming in already. 0809 444 0981.
All right. So your messages really are coming in. So Ayomide from Ikeja GRE says, reacting to Deborah's story, I'd like to ask exactly what blasphemy means. What is the benchmark? At what point does a person realize, oh, that's right, let's take this person's life? Ayomide goes on to say, in my gentle opinion, this is a state of anarchy. Should any law even be greater than that of the nation? This is a federal republic, and what has happened is obviously a crime. It is murder. So what exactly is this blasphemy? How do I know when I'm crossing the line, and what is worth taking a life in Nigeria? I'm tired, says Ayomide. I'm really, it's a question we keep asking. What's the value of a Nigerian life?
A lot of questions, really. Ken comes in with this one, says, Mr. C, those terrorists that killed Deborah said she blasphemed against Prophet Muhammad. What about the church building and shops that they have burned? Did the church building and shops blaspheme against the prophet? No, they did it because that is who they are. And the worst of all the Okay, we need to stop the message there.
Let's
I
take a
know, I understand that when things like this happen, emotions get really
Okay, so let
high.
me just quickly say this. It's 20 seconds. The
okay.
people who acted in Sokoto from Thursday to Saturday do not represent what Islam stands for. Simple.
Train abduction negotiations deadlocked. Federal government seeks foreign assistance coming in from the Punch newspaper because the terrorists are insisting on a swap of their commanders in custody, with the passengers kidnapped during an attack on the train at Qatari in Kaduna on the 28th of March. But also, we
Yeah,
can tie
quickly,
it
I
to.
think I should just add this one
Mm,
in from the Punch. Train abduction negotiations deadlocked. Federal government seeks foreign assistance.
Okay, so this is just an interesting mix of comedy, right? And I'm going to explain why. Now, on March 28th, a train going from Abuja to Kaduna was attacked by terrorists, and a large number of passengers were abducted. And as we speak, they have not yet been released. Now, the government comes out to tell us that negotiations concerning their release have stalled. Now, it's important to note that three notable people were released from that train abduction. One was the managing director of a federal government bank, one was a pregnant woman who was just released, and one was the son of a prominent northern politician. Now, the federal government claims that the negotiations have stalled and they're now seeking help. That is fantastic. Now, students of the federal government college Yari in Kebbi State were kidnapped 332 days ago. They've not yet been released. Some of them who were kidnapped are still in captivity. The Baptist School Kaduna, which was attacked 314 days ago, some of the students are still in captivity. The Tegina Islamia School in Niger State, the students spent 88 days in captivity. So when the federal government tells us the train abduction negotiations have stalled, what about these other abductions?
So it looks like right now we're seeking assistance from the US, the UK, and other Western countries because they have expertise to assist the country. That's according to the report.
So that is very vague, and I'll explain why. The train abductors have allegedly requested for the release of their colleagues who were in the federal government detention. Now, the federal government's policy ostensibly is not to release detained terrorists. So when you look at it, they now want to engage the Americans, the British, and the other foreign powers for advice. The bigger question is, when they receive the advice, will they accept it? No, no, you first have to accept it before you act on it.
okay.
So, will they even accept the advice, let alone act on it? So, there are a lot of questions here. And if you're asking for technical expertise and help with regards to a train abduction, these other events I've alluded to, I've carefully detailed and described. What is the state of the negotiations? Have you given up? Remember, Leah Sharibo has not been returned. Some of the Chibok girls have not been returned. So, what is the federal government's policy with regards to abductions? Is it that we'll try our best? Once our best is done, we move on. And is there a timeline for all of this? So there are questions only the federal government can answer.
But it looks like the conversation is not it's not a dead end, right? Because let's take it. We had this story in from the Premium Times, and you'd already referenced it about the pregnant woman who was in their captivity. From the Premium Times, train attack bandits release pregnant woman, and they said on compassionate ground, but that could. When terrorists have compassion, it's something else. But that could also be a means of saying, "Hey, we're still open. We can do this."
So the terrorists are not looking for money. They want the release.
They want their commanders in custody to be released.
Now, the question is the Nigerian government prepared to do that? So far, there's no evidence or material publicly available to suggest that they are. Now, if they're not willing to do it, how are they planning to get the people out? Because the abductors are not making any ransom demands at all. So it then begs the bigger question: what is the bigger plan for ending this wave of terrorist insurgency in Nigeria.
In fact, there were two pregnant women. Sorry, Shay. The other one was said to have, put to birth while in captivity.
Correct. Correct.
And the other one, based on compassion, you need to go. That we don't want two women pregnant, heavily pregnant, to put to birth here in the forest.
And one thing I want to talk about, so we had just covered the story about, the criminalization of paying for ransom, right? Um, a couple of weeks ago on Freshly Pressed. Now let's take a look at this. When it comes to negotiations, it's of course who has the strongest foothold, right? And at this point, can we say that our states, the states of Nigeria, our federal government as representative of the Nigerian state, do they have any power when it comes to these negotiations?
So when negotiations like this happen, they use back channels, they use trusted intermediaries, and one rarely comes to mind, Sheikh Gumi.
We've seen what when trusted intermediaries come to the forefront and what happens to them. But okay, go ahead.
No, but so far they seem to trust Sheikh Gumi, and they seem willing to have meetings with them. So the bigger question is, what exactly is the plan? Because sitting from where I am, yes, I'm not in security circles, but what exactly is the plan? Either for ending the abductions, getting the captives out, or even taking the fight really to these guys.
Mr. C, I remember a certain gentleman on Freshly Press, who was it on Friday, said, why would you tell us your plans in public? Work on the back channels and don't bring it out until it's done.
But but now they've admitted publicly that their back channel plans have literally stalled.
Well, we've got to take a break. So we will be back. Your messages have really come in across the platforms, Twitter, WhatsApp, and also youtube.com/smooth981 FM. Keep on sending them in. We're going to be reading them right after this. Stick with us.
YouTube chat is disconnected. YouTube chat is disconnected. Is it showing this? It's not showing here. Oh, okay. See now. It's not showing here.
We understand during times you need extra cash.
Yeah, chat. YouTube chat.
With First Advance, you can get up to 50% of your salary in 1 minute. Update your first mobile
Great
app
ahead,
or dial
guys. All right, thank you.
What?
Thank you. I'm not sure what he said. Great ahead, guys.
First Bank salary
I love
account.
it.
Maybe great day ahead.
First Advance. Visit www.
All right, so many messages are coming in. Make sure you send yours in as well.
I'm sure it's because of the Deborah story.
Yeah.
Smooth breakfast. Smooth breakfast. The Smooth Breakfast Show.
We're gonna.
Studio. Okay, we're coming in with so many of your messages to be read. So let's take a look at what you have to say. Yinka Bolu coming in on WhatsApp saying issues like this, what happened with Deborah, has been a norm up north with nothing being done about it, even to the point of occupying public roads with prayer mats during Jumats. So what is the difference between what happened in Sokoto and what Boko Haram does and showcased in videos by slitting people's throats? There must be consequences for this, says Yinka. And
Sociable
Sociable
sends a message.
says, Shaka, you're implying that it's not about Islam, but let me ask, do Christians kill for Jesus? We have seen Christians killing for different reasons. People are people. What I was asking was, is the root cause religion, or is this something, because we have many, many Muslim brothers and sisters who do not go around killing people. But we also have people who are in different religions doing just that. So is it about the people? Is it about the religion? I was asking a question. I wasn't implying anything. But thank you so much for sending your message in.
Well, BDA sent a message, says, talking about jungle justice suggests a crime. In Deborah's case, there was no crime. It was cold-blooded murder, period. The reason for this violence is the high illiteracy and poverty in the land. It is basically mischanneled anger and frustrations soaked in ignorance. Well, that's your opinion. Austin sent a message in. Says the federal government seeking foreigners to help rescue kidnapped victims. I'm afraid move might be sabotaged because they are insiders in the government giving abductors information. Can you verify that? Austin from Satellite.
And Chris says, Mr. C, I appreciate you trying to douse emotions. By saying that what happened in Sokoto over the weekend does not represent Islam. And Ruth says, hold on, just trying to get this message. The truth about the Okada riders is that they believe that they're above the law. It's the same mentality that fueled the attack and death of Deborah and the riot that followed suit. Um, messages coming in, but we still have more stories. So we'll
Yes, of
get to
course, we
that.
have quite a number of stories. Let's get into it. We have this one in from, let's give you this one.
From
This
the
one
New
from the,
Telegraph, APC presidential ticket, only 9 aspirants serious with contest, say sources.
all right. And from the New Telegraph, that story here for you. It says there are indications yesterday that 25 presidential aspirants of the All Progressives Congress, only three of them are really in the contest for the position, Mr. C. There were about, 25 of them, but just nine. Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the national APC leader and former governor of Lagos State, also former governor of Imo State, Roger Okorocha, the vice president Yemi Oshibajo, minister of state for education Emeka Nwajuba, governor of Kogi State Yaya Bello, governor of Ebonyi State Dave Umahi, minister of transportation Rotimi Amechi, president of the Senate Ahmad Lawan, and former governor of Zamfara State Ahmad Yarima. Nine of them have been, the ones who've showed interest. In fact, we heard the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige. It looks like he doesn't want to go through with his ambitions again,
Okay.
his aspirations.
Okay, thank you, Victor. So it's correct that of all the 25 or 30, actually there should be about 30 aspirants on the APC platform.
Mm.
It is correct that a majority of them are truly not serious about their perceived presidential aspiration. Some of them have not even paid for the form. They just orally declared an intention. And one person has already withdrawn from the race, and it appears he never picked up a phone. That's Senator Oju Zokalo. Now, it's interesting to note that of the 9 perceived serious candidates, a good number of them have also picked up forms for the Senate. Now, it goes to show that there is some big grand plan. And when I spoke about this, I think a week or two ago, I did point out that the Electoral Act had been amended. And it had limited campaign contributions to a maximum of 50 million naira, either by an individual or a corporate entity. So, to my mind, this could very well be a walk around such provisions.
Mm.
Now, if you read the story further, the source says that for every candidate that buys a presidential nomination form and a senatorial nomination form, you would at least get the senatorial form because they believe it's not in good conscience for an individual to put up 120 million and lose both tickets. Now, clearly, the APC needs to raise money. Given the Electoral Act as it currently stands, the previous era of getting big money from big donors has ended. Everybody is limited to 50, and then you then have to go around in multiple places. So this is their way of raising campaign money. But beyond all of this, even out of the 9, at best 2 or 3 are truly serious.
Mm.
The rest are just filling up the space. At the right time, they will drop out.
We saw a lot of politicians make loud noise about this. In fact, former governor of Edo State and former national chairman of the party, Adams Oshomole, had also indicated interest. Governor of Cross River State, I also hear now it looks like he wants to go to the Senate. Why did we see, like you said, over 30 people, everybody just wanted to declare intentions to be president on the platform of the APC, including the Minister of State for Petroleum?
Okay, so there's some confusion within the APC as to whether they're going to zone the presidential seat to a particular zone. Now, what it appears on paper is each zone is trying to show that we have the most aspirants, therefore we need to give it to us. And that is what has informed the surge. And some aspirants are paying for other aspirants. So, because when you look at it, when you look at the field of perceived candidates, many of them truly have no business being there. But it is what it is, and we will look and see what happens. Now, it's instructive that Even within all of this, the Southeast, some people from the Southeast, politicians from the Southeast, are still insisting that it be zoned to them. Now, if the major political parties do not want to zone the seat of president to the Southeast, there are at least 15 or 16 other parties. If you believe you're that strong, you have the number, go to any of the other parties and get your guys in. This is politics. Politics is about interests.
But also, you've already spoken about it. Let's just bring it in from the
Okay.
Guardian newspaper. Head 2023. Igbo wants APC and PDP against jettison in power rotations. Now, prominent Igbo leaders have described this as the agreed cord that ties Nigerians together. So you say politics is politics and will be politics forever and ever. But they're saying this is a this is our agreement. Why are we now trying to jettison it? Although they then took it a step further, like you said, and said that if they're going to zone it to the south, it must be microzone to the southeast.
So, again, politics is about negotiations. Politics is about offers, offers and acceptance. So the Southeast that is demanding that it be zoned to the south, microzone to the Southeast, what are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? Why should the other zones agree for it to come to the Southeast? What is in it for them? Politics is not morality. It's so sad, but it is what it is. So, have you made the necessary contact across the various regions to make this demand? Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for everything he represents, for everything he stands, along with Alhaji Atiku, for everything they stand for, right? They know how to cut across the various parts of Nigeria to reach out and
But Mr. C, we've seen agitations from the southeast, and we do know that the southwest had a shot at it. The south also had a chance at it. I wish I had time to talk extensively on this, but we don't.
Let's just see if we can take some of your messages to end the show. We'll go over to youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos, where we have messages coming in. First, in a couple in from Justin J. Hello, Justin, saying there's a whole section of the country that doesn't not believe in our secular constitution, and that's the problem. They sincerely believe when they lynch people that they're in the right and thus justified. It needs to be made clear to them that the state has a monopoly on violence. Whilst Peter Mora says Nigeria descending into anarchy. God help us. We've got more messages, this time from WhatsApp. Martin saying, police officers were killed in Ajao Estate sometime last year by Okada riders. None of them was arrested. A lucky killing again amongst many of the outrageous acts of these Okada riders. Do we actually have a government in the state? It's high time that they were banned all over the state rather than just some roads.
Well, Fabian says, may Deborah soul rest in peace and may the perpetrators be brought to book. Amen. The government needs to deal firmly with the people who carry out jungle justice and put things in place to prevent repeat occurrences.
And Tokoni Douglas will end on this message. Says this federal government that says negotiations have solved is the same one that outlawed the payment of ransom by loved ones, just to mention. All right, Tokoni, thank you for your message. And thank you, Mr. C, for your analysis. Make sure you go find him on Twitter, on Instagram, across social media. He is at Muncio C. There are 3 E's after that C. Find him, question him, praise him, whatever it is you want to do to him, just do it on social media. And of course, you can find us at Smooth981FM, and you can catch the replay up on youtube.com/Smooth981FM Lagos. Coming up, 8:15, it's the locker room.
First Bank.
And look at the time just went by real